Dear Ursula, dear Donald, good evening. Today we had the first ever meeting of European leaders dedicated exclusively to defence. In 2022, in the Versailles summit, we decided that we must assume greater responsibility for our own defence. A lot has been done already, but we need to do more. We need to do it better, stronger, faster, and we need to do it together. The ongoing war in Ukraine, cyber and hybrid attacks, the situation in the Middle East, all this calls for a strong European approach to ensure the security of all our citizens, to ensure peace on our continent. And building the Europe of defence is an integral part of this project. Today, our discussions focused on three main topics: capabilities, funding, and partnerships. First, on defence capabilities that should be developed as a matter of priority. We agree to concentrate on the most critical gaps identified by Member States through the work of the European Defence Agency in full coherence with NATO, to focus on the most pressing needs among them and to concentrate on areas where there is a clear European Union added value. In the discussion today, there was a clear focus on air and missile defence, for example, but also, to mention just a few, missiles and ammunition, military mobility, and strategic enablers. There was another very clear message today: strengthening the European defence industry has to be at the centre of this effort. We must produce more of the capabilities we need and do it faster. Second, we discussed financing. Member States have made great efforts at national level. Defence spending has already increased by 30% between 2021 and 2024. Today, on average, the 23 Member States that are also NATO allies are spending about 2% of their GDP on defence. We must continue in the same direction. The Commission announced it would look into the flexibilities within the new economic governance rules to allow for more national spending on defence. We also need European efforts to mobilise more private and public investments. To improve access to private financing, the European Investment Bank has already expanded its activities in support of the security and defence industry, and more can be done. As for public funds, defence will be an important topic in the discussions on the next European Union budget cycle as 2028. But it is clear to everyone that we need to act faster than that. Other ideas were mentioned today, including additional common options and more innovative ones. We will continue to work on them. Leaders also agreed that investment in the European defence industry will not only help ensuring peace, but also contribute to prosperity and to our competitiveness, all across the European Union for businesses, regions, and good jobs. Third, we discussed how to strengthen our defence partnerships. The European Union's strategic partnership with NATO is key to ensure transatlantic security. Both organisations will continue to work together and reinforce each other. During the lunch with the Secretary General Mark Rutte, we agreed that a stronger Europe of defence also strengthens the transatlantic partnerships. The United States is our friend, our ally, and our partner. This is a relationship that has deep roots and will endure in time. Problems and difference of views can come up also between friends. When they do, we need to address them, to talk and to find solutions. Of course, while defending our values and upholding our principles and without compromising our own interests. Those universal values and principles lie at the heart of the international order that we have built since the Second World War, together with the United States of America, national sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders. This evening, we also had the pleasure of having with us the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Sir Keir Starmer. The UK is our natural partner, and our meeting confirmed that there is a new positive energy in our relationship. There is a lot we can do together on defence and to address global challenges. We are looking forward to our summit with the UK this semester. Finally, let me stress that the situation in Ukraine was very much present throughout the day. We remain steadfast in our commitment to Ukraine's security, to a comprehensive, just and lasting peace. We Europeans have already delivered support to Ukraine to the tune of 134 billion euro, and we will continue to deliver, because we are determined to support Ukraine for as long as necessary and whatever it takes. In conclusion, we have made progress in our discussions on building the Europe of defence. We are driven by a shared sense of urgency, and we are not discussing the if anymore, we are discussing the how to do it. Today, we provided the European Commission and the Council with political guidance on capabilities, on financing, and on our relationship with NATO, the United States, and the United Kingdom. We are looking forward to the upcoming white paper from the European Commission and the High Representative, and I will keep defence on the European Council agenda. The format of this meeting has allowed us to have a frank, open, and free discussion. Now, the time has come to make choices and take decisions. A final word on our next meeting, the March European Council. It will be dedicated to the European economy because, as many colleagues mentioned today, the basis of our Europe's strength and autonomy is the competitiveness and prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam President, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, dear Antonio, dear Donald. We had a very good meeting today, and thank you very much, Antonio, for organizing it. It was timely, and it was a very substantive exchange. So first, we discussed our transatlantic partnership. This remains our most consequential relationship. It is fundamental to promoting peace, security, and prosperity. And against the backdrop that we know that there is a lot at stake, we discussed ways to strengthen a very pragmatic cooperation with the United States. There are clearly new challenges and growing uncertainties, so the European Union is prepared for a robust but constructive dialogue with the United States. But we also recognize potential challenges in the relationship with the United States, and we are ready for that. When targeted, unfairly or arbitrarily, the European Union will respond firmly. This weekend, we witnessed how steep tariffs were imposed on Canada and Mexico. Those tariffs raise business costs, they harm workers and consumers, they create unnecessary economic disruption and drive inflation. We do not see much good coming out of this. So we prioritize productive discussions and engage early. At the same time, the European Union remains also steadfast in its multilateral commitments, be it from our development aid to our climate targets. And of course, we are fully aware of the fact that we have our own challenges that we have to master. We have to do our homework. So it was very clear today also that we would focus on the competitiveness of the European Union. As I've laid out in the competitiveness compass, we have a whole roadmap to work on. This was the backdrop of this whole discussion. This is also where our discussion today on defense comes in timely. The threats we face today are real. They are growing, and they come from many forms. From Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, you mentioned the cyber attacks, the attacks on our critical infrastructure. We must prepare and respond together as Europeans. We must be stronger in defense. Europe needs basically a surge in defense. And for that, our defense industrial base must be strengthened. This means, first, our defense spending must increase up from the current average. I have 1.9% of GDP because I look at the average of the European Union member states. So for many, many years, we have underinvested in defense. Thus, there's a great urgency to increase the defense spending with a big magnitude. And for this, we need, first of all, more public funding. I am willing to explore and will use the full range that we have of flexibilities in the new Stability and Growth Pact to allow for a significant increase in defense spending. Furthermore, the second leg would be that we are working with the EIB to increase the flexibility of lending practices. The EIB is willing to do that. They say, rightly so, what they need is flagship projects on the table of the EIB. And of course, we need more private funding, so we need to have a dialogue with the private banking sector that it modernizes its lending practices. Second, our coordination in defense must be strengthened. For instance, through joint procurement, ensuring interoperability that brings down cost and gives us scaling opportunities and advantages. Third element, we must simplify our legislation, so we will look into the procurement legislation, what we can speed up and how we can simplify. The fourth element we discussed was that we need to foster defense innovation, including through increased cooperation with Ukraine defense industry. It's amazing to see how fast the Ukraine industry has been built up, for example, for drones, cheaper, faster, more intelligent drones. So our defense industry can learn a lot from the Ukrainian defense industry that has the experience of the battlefield every single day. And finally, very important for all of us in the discussion was, if we spend billions and billions of taxpayers' money, we need return of investment in form of increased know-how and good jobs here in Europe. As you said, the Commission will present a white paper on the future of European defence by March. And starting with our discussions today with the white paper, there will be a basis for the Member States to take the necessary decisions in June. Strengthening our cooperation in defence also means deepening our partnership with NATO and non-EU European partners. This is why the participation of Mark Rutte at our lunch today was so timely. And in the same vein, it was today very good to have a thorough discussion with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, because European security concerns us all inside and outside the European Union. We already have a strong cooperation in place, bilaterally as G7 members as part of the alliance. Now we are ready to discuss deeper cooperation, notably in security and defence, and we will discuss the structure and format of such a deeper cooperation and other topics at our common joint defence summit in the UK in May. Now, we need to set a lot of initiatives in motion. And Donald, I'm so glad to have you as the rotating presidency, because I know we can rely on you and the dynamics. You have made security the central theme of your presidency, rightly so. So I know we can count on your energy and dedication of the Polish presidency to drive this topic forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prime Minister Tusk, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This is why I promised to the group of Polish journalists that I will use Polish language for the first part of our press conference, because it's, as you can imagine, because it is our main priority, security and defense of our rotating presidency. And this is why also the public opinion in Poland is very interested in what we have achieved today. You have to see the device here.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. To było nieformalne spotkanie. Czasami tak jest w Unii Europejskiej, że nieformalne spotkania przynoszą więcej efektów niż rutynowe spotkania Rady Europejskiej. Ja mogę z wielką satysfakcją powiedzieć, że także dzięki zaangażowaniu przewodniczącego Rady Europejskiej i szefowej Komisji Europejskiej to spotkanie było z punktu widzenia polskiej prezydencji niezwykle owocne i bardzo obiecujące. Nie zakończyło się, co oczywiste, formalnymi decyzjami, ale intencje całej 27 dotyczące konieczności przyspieszenia prac nad uzbrojeniem Europy, nad uczynieniem Europy bardziej bezpiecznej. Intencje co do jakby pełnej solidarności z państwami Unii, z Ukrainą, co oczywiste, ale także z Danią w tym dość osobliwym momencie naszej wspólnej historii. To wszystko było bardzo, bardzo budujące. Chciałem też podziękować, Antonio, tobie za to, że zgodziłeś się na tę moją sugestię, aby drugą część poświęcić relacjom z Wielką Brytanią. To był bardzo ważny moment dla nas wszystkich i też się cieszę, że wszyscy potwierdzili gotowość do bardzo poważnej, intensywnej rozmowy, też wtedy, kiedy będziecie mieli szczyt, ale też w naszych codziennych relacjach z Wielką Brytanią. Potwierdzili taką gotowość do minimalizowania negatywnych efektów Brexitu dla obu stron, dla Unii Europejskiej i dla Wielkiej Brytanii. To oznacza, że będziemy rozmawiali, co jest dość łatwe, dość proste, nie tylko o bezpieczeństwie, nie tylko o wspólnej polityce zagranicznej w obliczu kryzysów, jakie dotknęły nasz region, ale że jesteśmy także gotowi do rozmowy na każdy inny temat, tak aby negatywne konsekwencje Brexitu były jak najmniej dotkliwe i dla Wielkiej Brytanii, i dla Unii Europejskiej. I ta otwartość, ja to zresztą powiedziałem dość z dużym przekonaniem, że od czasu Brexitu nie było tak dobrych relacji między Unią Europejską i Wielką Brytanią i nieprzypadkowo w tych dniach też dowiedzieliśmy się, że w Wielkiej Brytanii ta atmosfera proeuropejska jest taka wyraźniejsza niż kiedykolwiek po wyjściu Wielkiej Brytanii z Unii Europejskiej. Nie mówimy o politycznych iluzjach, nie będziemy rozmawiali o ewentualnym powrocie Wielkiej Brytanii. Co się stało, to się stało, chociaż w polityce cuda się zdarzają, ale na pewno będziemy w stanie ograniczyć do minimum negatywne konsekwencje naszego rozstania sprzed kilku lat. Bardzo ważne były te słowa o solidarności z Danią i upewniłem się jeszcze w czasie naszego spotkania, że wszyscy, którzy tak jednomyślnie wsparli Danię, byli świadomi też ewentualnych konsekwencji, przed którymi może staniemy wszyscy razem jako wspólnota. To jest bardzo ważne, żeby nasze słowa o solidarności nie były sloganami, tylko były jakby świadomym podjęciem potencjalnych wyzwań. Mówię o tym tak otwarcie, bo reprezentuję państwo, które ma tradycyjnie najbliższe relacje ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi. I też reprezentuję państwo, które ma najwyższy wskaźnik w Europie i w NATO, jeśli chodzi o udział w wydatkach na zbrojenia w krajowym produkcie brutto. Mówiąc krótko, zdecydowanie zanim stało się to modne, Polska przekroczyła 4% w wydatkach na obronę i to pozwala polskiej prezydencji i polskiemu rządowi mówić bardzo otwarcie i z autentyczną serdecznością, ale też wysokimi oczekiwaniami, rozmawiać z naszymi przyjaciółmi z drugiej strony Atlantyku. I dlatego podkreślaliśmy to, ale wszyscy solidarnie, nawet jeśli niektórzy ciszej, niektórzy głośniej, ale że dla Unii Europejskiej jako całości integralność terytorialna państwa, a szczególnie członka Unii Europejskiej, jest czymś bezdyskusyjnym i że będziemy ją traktowali jako najwyższy priorytet całej wspólnoty. Bardzo ważna jest właśnie ta decyzja, że wszyscy jesteśmy gotowi przyspieszyć pracę nad finansowaniem i konkretnymi działaniami na rzecz zwiększenia obronności Unii Europejskiej. Nikt już nie ma wątpliwości. Ja jestem bardzo dumny z tego, że ta polsko-grecka inicjatywa dotycząca obrony powietrznej Europy, żeby potraktować to jako wspólne zadanie, że działania Polski na rzecz ochrony wschodniej granicy Unii Europejskiej, a więc tak zwana tarcza wschód, że konieczność finansowania, wspierania tego projektu znalazła zrozumienie dzisiaj u wszystkich rozmówców. I w ogóle ta świadomość, że to podkreślał przewodniczący Costa w swoim końcowym wystąpieniu, że istnieje gigantyczna przestrzeń bezdyskusyjnie wspólna dotycząca obrony i zdolności obronnych, a także produkcyjnych w Unii Europejskiej i że warto traktować to jako wspólne zadanie i także wspólny przedmiot wart wspólnego finansowania. Do takich zadań będzie należała też oczywiście ochrona naszych wód terytorialnych i mórz, nie tylko Bałtyku, co już jest powoli praktyką, ale też Morza Północnego. Poruszyliśmy wiele tematów i właściwie wszyscy, tam są oczywiście dyskusje, w jaki sposób finansować. Nie wszystko zostało ostatecznie jakby dopięte, ale to, co jest wspólne, jest zdecydowanie przeważa nad różnicami. To przede wszystkim dzięki waszej pracy i bardzo za to dziękuję.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have the time to take a few questions. Beata from the front row.
Thank you, Beata Pomycka, Polish Radio. I would like to ask for some details concerning financing. After today's discussion, what is the most favorable option? There were some calls, for example, to create a 1 billion euro fund to jointly borrow euros in order to finance the defense project. How realistic is that? This is the questions for the presidents and for the Polish Prime Minister in Polish, if I may. Panie premierze, powiedział pan, że znalazło uznanie takie inicjatywy, takie pomysły polskie jak obrona przeciwpowietrzna i tarcza wschód. Czy uważa pan, że do czerwca, jak wspomniała pani przewodnicząca, kiedy dokumenty będą gotowe, te projekty będą na liście kluczowych priorytetów w dokumencie unijnym? Thank you.
You want me to start? Or you
Yes,
want to
please.
start? Okay. So if we look at, let's say, 3 tiers that are possible for financing, it's the national budgets, it is the European Investment Bank, and then it's the private banking that we can use. And if I have a look at the national budgets, they are constrained, have been constrained so far through the new rules of the Stability and Growth Pact. For extraordinary times, it is possible to have extraordinary measures, also in the Stability and Growth Pact, and I think we live in extraordinary times. So we will look as a Commission deeper into using much more flexibilities. They are optional possible with the Stability and Growth Pact. for defense investment and defense expenditures. So this gives much more fiscal space or leeway to the member states to increase their defense spending on the national level. There's a second option where I always think we have to keep the ranking order of how we move forward. If I take the advanced air defense, the proposal that Prime Minister Tusk was mentioning, lots of support. Everybody knows that no member state is able to deliver on a sufficient air defense on its own. But advanced air defense for the whole of the European Union, with the experience of the war at our borders, is absolutely necessary. So you take a common project, and then we can discuss how the common European financing is feasible. Here we haven't gone into details at the moment but the strong support for the proposal of Donald Tusk and Kyriakos Mitsotakis speaks for itself. And then, as I said, I think with the EIB, I think the lending practices will change. EIB is willing to do that, has earmarked already money that they could invest. And this then would have to be filled with projects from the European level. And finally, the private banking sector that is so far reluctant to finance defense projects. Here, I think we really have to speak to each other. Also, with the EIB changing its lending practices, it makes it easier for the banking sector, the private banking sector, to follow suit.
You know, all in good time. I mean, I am not ready to be too detailed and too concrete when it comes to timing, and I am not sure if we will solve everything what is really interesting and vital from our point of view already in June. Wszystko w swoim czasie. My musimy przede wszystkim przekonać, dzisiaj stało się to faktem i to mogę powiedzieć bezdyskusyjnie, przy stole już nie było nikogo, kto by oponował o potrzebie wsparcia przez wszystkie państwa członkowskie takich projektów jak obrona powietrzna czy wspólna europejska wschodnia granica. I o szczegółach będziemy oczywiście rozmawiali później, wszystko w swoim czasie, jak powiedziałem. Ja się cieszę, że nawet w takich w sumie niedużych sprawach, jak była różnica zdań na przykład między Francją a Polską, jeśli chodzi o sposób wykorzystania tego formatu, ten European Defence Industry Program. I tam był, i już pod koniec spotkania prezydent Macron powiedział, nie widzę problemu, na pewno rozwiążemy to tak, żeby Polska była usatysfakcjonowana, jeśli chodzi o pozycję Francji w tej kwestii. Więc ponieważ już jest dobra wola, to nie jest, broń Boże, moim zadaniem definiować, która z metod finansowania okaże się najbardziej atrakcyjna dla całej 27, ale z mojego punktu widzenia fakt, że uznano za europejskie priorytety to, o czym wspomniałem, czyli i powietrze, i morze, i lądową granicę z Rosją, Białorusią, to jest tak naprawdę taki wstęp do decyzji i od tego na pewno już nie będzie odwrotu.
Okay. Ole, in the middle.
Yes, thank you. Question for President Costa. Ole Ryborg from Danmarks Radio, Danish National Radio and Television. You discussed transatlantic relations today. In what way did you discuss the question of Greenland and the interest expressed in Greenland by President Trump and Vice President Vance? And in case you did that, is there a common European response to these comments that have come out of the US in the question of Greenland? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. The European Union, as I said, continue to uphold the United Nations Charter, the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and inviolability of borders. And these are universal principles. We stand in supporting Ukraine to stand for these principles. And of course, we will stand also for these principles all the more so if the territorial integrity of a member state of the European Union is questioned. And preserving the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark, its sovereignty and the inviolability of its borders is essential for all member states. And the European Union fully supports the Kingdom of Denmark.
Henry.
Thank you so much. Henry Foy, Financial Times. President Costa, you talked about political guidance on finance. You just heard President of the Commission list some options. If there was one thing that you think leaders now absolutely expect to be in the white paper, what would it be? To President von der Leyen, today Donald Trump said he would pause for at least a month the tariffs that you mentioned he imposed on Mexico after negotiations with that country. He said he will absolutely apply tariffs on the European Union. Are you confident that you, like Mexico's president, can also convince him not to do that? And to the Prime Minister Tusk, the last time EU leaders talked about defence spending, you and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz had a pretty emotional argument about his refusal to even think about joint funding for EU defence projects. Today, did you get a sense that his opinion has changed? Thank you.
Well, the meeting today was an informal retreat, a brainstorming day, and all the leaders brought to the table different proposals, different ideas, also how to funding our commitment on defense. All of us agree that we need to spend more, but also to spend better. That people brought ideas to engage together in common projects, on joint procurement, to harmonize standards, to ensure interoperability, to avoid overlapping, to avoid duplication, but also new ways to fund. The President of the European Commission summed up very well the different levels of the discussion. How to create more fiscal space on national budgets. What kind of common funding we can develop to common projects or to fill the gap of common shortage on priority capabilities. And finally, how to mobilize private investment to develop and strengthen our defense industry. Then, when you ask what the leaders want in the white paper, certainly proposals for these three levels. How to create fiscal space, how to create common funds to common projects, and finally, how to mobilize private financing to strengthen our defense industry.
So on your question...
and we count on the European Commission to deliver the white paper.
You can rely on us. So on your question, I think very clear in the debate today in the room was the principle, first of all, be prepared. I can only say we are prepared. That's important. But the second element is also important. Be very pragmatic, engage early, discuss and negotiate if necessary. But I also want to emphasize the third element that was strong in the room of leaders. That is, look, we have also homework to do and focus on our own challenges. Improve our competitiveness, for example, increase the productivity growth. So let's focus on that. This gives us the necessary strength. And besides that, be prepared. And I can only say we are prepared.
We have time for one more question.
Yes,
Jennifer?
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
apologies.
It's my impression that the approach of German Chancellor is today much more positive when it comes to these two areas, I mean, or projects. Some of our colleagues prefer to use this term flagship projects. Some of them prefer to use the flagship areas. Never mind. For me, it can be projects and areas and everything. But of course, the eastern border of the EU, it's not only our national borders, and airspace. How to protect our airspace, I mean, air defense. Yeah, this is something what is in our common interest. And here the German Chancellor is also pretty clear. And my impression is much, much more positive than a few weeks ago. I don't remember when it was, but yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Last question for Jennifer.
But please be precise, because they have election in Germany. I don't want to spoil the good mood of anyone there.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Rankin from the Guardian newspaper. I wanted to ask you about the UK. The Prime Minister Keir Starmer this evening came to talk about an EU-UK security pact. And I want to put to all of you, we hear from member states that this agreement can only be agreed by the EU if there is an early agreement on other areas of the reset, namely fishing, also a youth mobility agreement. So do you think it is right that an agreement on EU-UK security should be contingent on reaching a deal on fishing, on all these other areas? Does that approach make sense to you at a time of when there is war on the European continent and all the threats that you have outlined? Is that approach the right one to you? And in particular to the European Commission President von der Leyen, how do you propose to handle that sequencing as a Commission President? Thank you.
Well, I'm very jealous because the great idea to invite Keir Starmer to our meeting came from Donald Tusk. But it's the advantage to have a large experience as a former president of the European Council. And it's effectively a great idea because everybody was delighted to welcome Sir Keir Starmer, and he contributes for our reflection and to say clearly that the United Kingdom and in the European Union are reliable and predictable partners. Today we talk about defense and security. But United Kingdom and the European Union want to do more together. And we are looking forward to have our institutional summit in the UK, I think in 19th of May, and to engage with United Kingdom, not only on a reset, but effectively in the closest relationship as it will be possible to build together.
Yeah, there is so much to explore and to work on in security and defense. We have a very solid foundation, that's true. We have the withdrawal agreement, we have the TCA, we have the Windsor agreement, a very solid foundation. They have to be implemented, and I would call this is an ongoing work. So it will stay with us for a while and keep us busy. But there's so much more that we can explore in the field of security and defense that we should start our work. This was the common sense at the table today. There's a lot we have to deliver. Voilà, cher ami.
Voilà. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much. I wish you all
Okay,
very
thank
nice
you.
evening.
Bye.
Preben tam siedzi, wiesz? Preben.
And thank you very much for your invitation.